Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, a workforce development consultant with the Kent ISD here in Kent County. And I'm so happy to have Jason Truskowski with us today. He is an applications engineer and a burgeoning shoutcaster for esports. So welcome, Jason.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, here at Career Chats, we love to take our role models back to their high school age. Some of our students watching this will be high school. And when you were 16 or so, did you think you'd grow up to be an applications engineer? Tell us about that career, early thinking.
Yeah, so 16 is around the time where I started to seriously think about what I wanted to do as a degree in college. And around that time when I was thinking about it, I kind of decided that I had like a passive interest in technology growing up. Like I never really did anything formally with school or anything like that. But I was just very interested in technology, and I thought that was on my list of things where I wanted to kind of learn more about that and how things are made in terms of, coding and the technical sphere. And so I did not take AP computer science in high school. That's one of the few AP courses I did not take because I didn't know it was a thing. But when I started college, I jumped right into the computer science program just to kind of see if this is something that I could do. It was kind of a little bit of a leap of faith because, like I said, I hadn't really done anything with it before then. Um, but I had this interest in technology, and that's something that, looking towards the future, I know how much technology permeates all aspects of our lives. So that was something that I really wanted to try to see if that was something that I could contribute to. And luckily enough, it was something that I really enjoyed very early on, and you know, I just stuck with it. It wasn't easy or anything like that, but it was something that the passion was founded, and it just grew the more I got into it. And yeah, it was all set from there.
Well, I think I want to glean a couple things out of what you just shared. Is one, you were looking ahead at a career that you knew there was going to be a demand and you'd probably have a good job and pay. So young people, that's really something to consider. That is
Hmm.
a piece of these decisions, is that you don't want to pick a job that's going away. I also love that you shared it wasn't a passion of yours per se. The passion developed. So again, sometimes we hear a lot in the community like, follow your passion. What is your passion? But that's not always the most significant part of these decisions. Obviously, you had a interest in tech. So let's stick in that high school age for a little bit. Were you a gamer at that time? Did computers just come easily for you? Did you have some natural aptitude around computers?
There's a joke in the computer science sphere, especially in college, that most people who start in that major were gamers growing up, and a lot of them go into it because they want to make video games. I went into it knowing that was probably not where I was going to end up, but I do think a lot of my background in tech came from being a gamer as a kid. Like that was my introduction to a lot of hardware management and just an interest in game design, like how games are made. And that went from the design decisions, like what makes them fun, into how do you actually make that? So, like I said, I kind of knew in the back of my mind that that wasn't where I was going to end up because video games are just something that is fun to me. It's a fun recreational activity, but it still was the start of that interest in technology. So in my mind, I was like, okay, I kind of have this general background in tech. I want to go deeper into that and see where I can apply this to a career. So it started with an interest and a passion, but I kind of took it in a direction that was a little bit more career oriented, or something that I felt I could make a career out of, because there are certainly careers in video game development, but I knew that I didn't want to limit myself just to those possibilities because there are so many other possibilities out there in tech that I could get into. But yeah, video games are where it started, I would probably say, but it didn't just stay there because there's so much more outside of that that I discovered once I really got into it.
Yeah, and I think what's so great about that is helping young people and the school counselors on this call that our interests are a piece of it for sure. And I love that again you expanded it out and you want to know the how to make it. Because again, there's so many jobs around video games and tech. So good for you. So when you're in high school, did you do you remember doing any job shadows? Did you do any career tests? Like how did you even start to think about expanding that thinking to how is this going to be a career? Is that just naturally the way you are?
Um, it wasn't too much in high school. Like I said, I was kind of just I was taking a lot of AP classes, just kind of getting that breadth of experience from those, just to see what I would maybe be interested in as a career. And then it was really in college where I started to think, okay, I have to at least, start with something. It might not be the major that I'm ultimately going to go with, but I gotta start somewhere. And as I mentioned, I kind of looked ahead. It's like, okay, what do I what do I enjoy doing? What do I think I would enjoy doing as a career? That is also practically applicable, has good jobs in the market, is in demand, like we've mentioned, and it has some level of practicality to it. Because as we've kind of been talking about, the passion is a part of it. And I do think that it's important to find something in the realm of what you enjoy or you're passionate about or you're interested in. Uh, but then there's also the aspect of it that it is a career, it is a job, it is your livelihood. So finding that balance between doing what you love and finding, what is practical, whether that's for you for, having a career and a stable income, or practical for the people that you affect through the job that you have. I think both of those things are important when deciding what you want to do a career in, because, like I said, I really love video games. I don't think I would enjoy um developing video games as a career. Some people might. I don't think I would, and that's just me. So I kind of combined the passion that I had for technology, or the interest that I had in technology, with looking at what can I do with technology that both supports me and is meaningful to the people that I'm working for.
I hope all school counselors and students take that question right there and put that at the top of a career development plan, because that's beautiful right there. I love it. So one of the questions young people often have is like, how do you even decide then what college to go to, since you were kind of still exploring a little bit, and then what program to start with? What do you remember about that decision making?
Right, yeah. So when it got around time to really seriously considering colleges, I did start looking at, major tech colleges, mostly in the area, a little bit outside of that, just because that was around the time that I was thinking, like, senior year, okay, I think I want to go into computer science at least to start. So I want to try that. So I looked at a lot of tech colleges like Michigan Tech, but I was also just looking at computer science programs at colleges that weren't necessarily strictly tech. So I ended up going to Grand Valley State University, because while they're a university, they do more than just tech, or that's not their main focus. They do have multiple different colleges that each focus on a different thing, and Grand Valley's computer science program is very, very good. Um, so yeah, I was kind of keeping my major in mind when I was, or my intended major in mind when I was looking for colleges, but I didn't want to narrow myself down to just what specialized in what my major was, because I was also hedging for the future a bit, where it's like I didn't know that I was going to stick with this all the way. So I didn't want to commit to it too hard. If I was somebody who had a bunch of experience in computers, formal experience in computers going into college, then I probably would have had a little bit more of an idea. But I wanted to leave options open to try and navigate around that space, or try something else if I wasn't sure if that was what I wanted to do. But Grand Valley has a very good computer science program, like I said, and it was also close. Proximity wasn't my main criteria for picking a college. It just so happened that way. And yeah, they kind of they reached out to me and were very supportive in like getting me set up for that. So it was just ultimately a good fit for a variety of factors, both for exploring what I wanted to do, being close, being focused on my development in that field, even though I didn't have any real formal experience in it going into it. It was just a number of things that all just kind of fit together in making my decision to go to a specific college.
Thank you for sharing that thought process, because I think it's really important for young people to hear all those considerations for sure. So when you're in college, again, you're kind of exploring, you've shared that a little bit. You said it wasn't always easy. So share about that a little bit. Give kids the reality that just because you like it doesn't mean it's always going to be easy. And then the second part would be like, did you get involved with any clubs or any activities during college? So I know it's kind of two parts. So Go ahead.
Yeah.
I
So
should
yeah,
throw two at you at one
no,
time. Sorry about that.
no worries. I got it. All right. So yeah, going in as somebody who was interested in learning coding, learning computer science, but hadn't really had any formal training in it. Um, you know, on one hand, it was a very easy way to get into it at the start of college because, those introductory courses, they don't really assume any knowledge of it beforehand or anything like that. But I do think, at least for computer science, the field that I'm in, and I'm sure this is the same for any career that you could get in, I think there's a very specific mindset that goes into being in this sort of field where, it's not necessarily are you smart enough to do this? It is can you teach yourself to think in the way that this career uh demands of you? So computer science, when you're coding uh adds very, very core when you break it down to like its basic building blocks. It's all a bunch of logic, like binary logic, and then all that builds on top of each other. So you kind of have to think a certain way when you're coding. Like you have to have a very logical mindset, like step by step, understand what all of the little pieces do when you're trying to put them all together. Um, and I think that's something that, like I said, it's not necessarily a question of are you smart enough to do that? It is, are you willing to train yourself to think in that certain way? And sometimes that comes easier than other times. And that can depend on, in the computer science field, what language you're learning. Some of them are harder than others, what frameworks you're working with. And I think the most important thing is to be open to learning and understanding that the learning process is not always going to be smooth sailing. Like I had times in college where I busted out a project like that. It was in a language that I knew after using it in a couple other projects and wasn't really that difficult at all. Then I had the week long, like almost all nighter sessions where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This was a mistake. I am terrible at this. I won't be able to survive in there. And like, I bring that up because those are real feelings that can happen, especially in computer science. I just say because I know for a fact. Uh, I think imposter syndrome is probably like one of the biggest enemies you can have in at least this field, and I'm sure a lot of other ones where, you know, there will be challenges, and that's because you may be learning. It may be something that you have never seen before, done before, and you're not really expected to know that in college. What you're expected to do is, decide, is this something that I'm willing to put in the time and effort to learn? And so throughout college, I always had the mindset, and I think going into it without any prior experience before college maybe helped with this. I went into it with the mindset of like, okay, I don't have any experience with this. I know that. I know that the other people in the class are probably going to have an easier time at this than I am. Maybe not all of them. Some of them are as new as I am, but I know that I'm kind of starting from ground zero. So there's no other option for me if I want to stay in this than to just, be honest with that. Get help from professors. Like professors, if you're going to a good college, they are there to teach you and help you through those struggles. Like those struggles are going to happen. You're not going to avoid them, but it's about being willing to learn and, get the help that you need and admit when you don't know something and get the help early and often. And, you know, a good professor will be receptive to that. And, a good professor will be more receptive to a student who doesn't know what they're doing but is willing to learn than a student who tries to pretend that they know what they're doing and just kind of, backs off and doesn't ask for help when they need it.
Good role model wisdom coming out of you, Jason, for sure. I think it's great that you normalize that because I think with every major, you're going to have those days like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Do I belong here? Am I smart enough? And that imposter syndrome again is such a great thing. And young people, that just means that do I know it? Like do people do I know? Can I do this? You just
Mhm.
have that questioning, that self-questioning. So thank you
Yeah.
for sharing all that.
And
Sure.
I will also be candid and say that doesn't go away when you graduate. Like a couple weeks ago, I had the exact same feeling. Like it's like, do I really know what I'm doing? Did I just skirt through college? Did everybody just think that I knew what I was doing when I really didn't? And then, I fixed the bug. I'm like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. Um, but that that advice of the willingness to learn and to ask for help when you need it, like that doesn't just apply to college when you're learning it for the first time. Like, especially in computer science, in the tech field where things are constantly, progressing and advancing and new things are developing all of the time, you are not going to know everything and you're not going to be confident in all of the things that you're working on. So, you know, just because you graduate from college with a degree doesn't mean you're done learning and doesn't mean that you're ready for anything that is going to be thrown at you right then. But it's not about having the knowledge beforehand. It's having the willingness to learn and the humility to know when you need help and to know who to ask for it. And luckily, I've just always had a great support network, either in college from professors or at my job with my coworkers who are able to provide that as long as, I step up and say, hey, I don't know this. I want to be able to get this done. I need some help to do it. And there's no shame in that, especially if you're doing it early on.
Yeah, and I love that you put that out there because when I became a parent, you're like, you take a baby home from the hospital, like, what? Like, you just let me leave. So it never stops in your whole life. So let's talk about an applications engineer right now. What does that mean? And why don't you share a typical day of what that looks like for you? So what is an application?
Sure. So I'm at Steelcase, and Steelcase uses application engineer as kind of a blanket term for those working in IT. And that can mean at Steelcase a lot of different things. There's multiple IT teams that work on different things. And when I say IT, a lot of people might be thinking, the guy down the hall who comes and fixes your computer when there's something wrong with it. That is an IT team that we have, but that's not all it is. At a large company like Steelcase has a lot of, automated processes for like processing orders and scheduling things in their manufacturing plants. So there's multiple IT teams where they each specialize in different internal things that Steelcase uses, like in their intranet or something of that nature. So I am on the order to cash team at Steelcase, and what that means is we we do all the things with, processing sales orders and like, filling out all that information, creating reports out of them and sending those along. So that could be, a lot of business logic that we have to transform into a program, or, a front-facing user website that they need to access this information. But there's so many other teams, like there's a manufacturing and distribution team that deals with the internal displays in the plants where they, display like what is being worked on at any place in the plants. And, there's way more than that. So applications engineer, like I said, it's a very generalized term that could mean a lot of different things. But it's mostly just to do with, what languages are you working on, what things in the company are you responsible for working with or fixing when they go down or that sort of thing.
And I guess that's something that young people to think about every time you buy something off Amazon. There's some applications engineer making all that smooth for you. So that's the kind of job for sure.
Mhm.
Was this a job that you had known about? Like, did you get it from an internship? Like, how did you make that transition from college into this job? Like, how did you know what it was and how to do it?
Yeah, so when I was in college and I was looking for an internship, Grand Valley has a really good relationship with a lot of, companies around the area. And computer science, there's a lot of tech companies that frequently, meet with students, or we have career fairs where you can meet them. And when I was in college, I was really focused on like those tech companies because those are the ones that were kind of front and center for, those in computer information systems. Uh, and I was applying to all these places for an internship, but I never really found one that was necessarily a good fit at the time. Uh, my employment at Steelcase actually came from a connection that I had from many years ago. I ran into my old Cub Scout master. I was in the Cub Scouts as a kid, and I ran into him in the store and like he was asking what I was up to. And I said I was doing computer science. I was looking for an internship right now. And I wasn't like seeing if he could help me with that, but he was just like, oh, well, I'm an IT manager at Steelcase. If you want to apply there, I would recommend it's a great place to work. I could endorse your application and then we could get you an internship there because in computer science at Grand Valley, you need a summer internship to graduate. So that was what I was looking for. And that was something that I never really considered because, like I said, I was looking for all these tech companies because, I'm in computer science, got to work for a tech company. But just by chance, I had that connection that I had to work in, tech and computer science at a company that was not primarily, a tech company. It was working for IT at, a larger company that had other things going on, like Steelcase is a furniture manufacturer, office furniture manufacturer. Um, so that was something that I never really considered at all until I found it out through that connection. So if there's one other major thing that I would want people to know is that, and I'm sure some of you might have heard it before, and if you haven't, you're going to hear it a lot more than just from me. It's not always about what you know, it's about who you know. And me having that connection didn't just get me, an internship for free. I still had to go through that uh process of applying and interviewing and seeing if I would be a good fit, and if they were a good fit for me. But that was just a door that opened to me because I had a good connection from the past and just kind of created that bridge to an opportunity that I never really knew existed.
Yeah, networking comes up a lot in our group chats. And so for young people watching this, yes, it's keeping, having that good work ethic, good attitude, being kind to people because people want to help other people. Sure.
Right.
That's great. So what is the favorite part of your job, Jason, then? And what is your least favorite part?
I would say my favorite part of my job is just the amount of the variety of things that I'm able to experience with it. Where when I was getting into computer science, I was trying to figure out like what specifically I wanted to do with it because I didn't have any knowledge going in, and I was like, I don't know what I want to develop in. Like, do I develop in a specific language all my life? Do I work on this one thing? I didn't really have any frame of reference for that. And so like I was getting a degree, but then the question would be, what do I do with it? I don't really know exactly like where I'm going to land in what I work with. And I'm not sure if I would want to necessarily do the same thing my entire life. And in case there's other opportunities out there or if it gets stale or something like that. But one of the one of the great things about working for such a large company where, there's so much IT work to do is that there's a great variety of, coding languages I can use, things I can work on, um, teams I could be on because I started in my internship on a different team than I'm on right now as a full-time employee. And I kind of rotated teams around to see like where I could fit. And I think that was really beneficial to get more of an idea of what I wanted to do in the context of an actual job, an actual career in the field. And even now, like I enjoy what I'm doing right now, but if there becomes less of a need for that specifically, what I'm doing right now, or I decide I want to pursue something else, then, I have those options available to me on different teams, like in the same company, and I still have those connections that it's connected to what I've already done in the past. I'm not, going out and starting from scratch really. So I feel like I have the freedom to continue learning and exploring my career while still having that baseline of, I know what my job is now, but it could it could change if it needs to in the future in a good way, where, I'm not locked in to any one thing forever. Um, Least favorite part of my job. Um, I think it specifically comes in those moments where, I mentioned imposter syndrome doesn't necessarily go away. And I don't think that's necessarily anything to do with the job itself. I definitely don't think it wouldn't be there if I was somewhere else. But sometimes there are those times where I'm struggling with what I'm working on. I'm working on something new that I don't really know about. And, I can get in my own head and be like, am I asking for help too much? Should I really be in charge of this and stuff like that? Um, and I think that's just something that will come with any career, especially in computer science. But being honest, it can be a rough time sometimes, but I think it's just in those moments because I come out of those always, you know, repeating to myself what I've shared here, where it's just, it's not about me knowing everything going into it. It's about, being willing to get that help and that support that I need. But sometimes it can just be a little bit hard to remember that in the heat of the moment because, I I still have a job to do. Um, but I do think having a good support system at work, which I do have, is very helpful in kind of mitigating, those less fun parts, and they don't last forever.
Yeah, I feel like I need to take that clip and share it with my young professional son because I know that he's definitely has that imposter syndrome and all those things you were just sharing for sure. We have a few minutes left. We have about 4 minutes. So for two of those, I'd love just to delve into the Shoutcaster part of your and how Steelcase is involved with esports and just tell us about that interest and educate young people and their counselors about this whole field of esports and how Shoutcasting is a job.
Sure. So I'll start from how I got into this from my actual job because it's very interesting how this actually happened. So Steelcase has many business inclusion groups where, for, minority groups in the workplace or for just different common interests. So there's, ways to network with your peers at work in ways that are more personal and natural and forge those connections. So one of our business inclusion groups is we have a gaming community where we get together and, we have, an esports kind of showroom in the space because we're kind of delving into that esports realm and, marketing a little bit, finding out how we market to, esports and streamers and stuff like that. But there's also a bunch of us that just really enjoy games. Like I still am a big gamer even now. And so we have our own in-house like Super Smash Bros. Tournaments where we play Mario Kart. We have a Rocket League team that competes against other companies' Rocket League teams. So that's a really fun thing. But we've also been, partnering with different groups. Like we just had a couple weeks ago the Kent County Cup, where, we partnered with high school esports organizations to have a Super Smash Bros. Tournament that Steelcase sponsored and offered some seating options as prizes for that tournament. But I and a couple other people from the Steelcase gaming community also personally were invited to help out with that. And I helped out with setting up the live stream because I have some background in live streaming just personally. I do it as a hobby for fun. So I created a live stream for that event and I was just commentating Smash Bros. The entire time. So that was kind of another instance of, just fun connections. There's a gaming community at work and work is sponsoring this esports event. This is something that I'm personally passionate in. And it just so happens that I have the ability to, participate in that. So yeah, I commentated that because I have a big background in competitive Smash Bros. I know a lot about the game. It's just fun to commentate that outside of just, my work is sponsoring it. I was personally just super jazzed to be there. And then after that, one of the esports coaches with MySEF, one of the Michigan high school esports associations, invited me out to Shoutcast for their state finals for Smash Bros, which I did not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before. So that's a little bit of a hobby that has recently started up based on, my interest in competitive video games that I got out of, just networking with people at work and outside of work. So again, it's just those connections can get you stuff that you never would have imagined. Because I did not think when I was going into college to study computer science that I was going to be shoutcasting for esports events as a result of where I worked. And to be clear, that's a separate thing from work, but it's a cool connection that I have that I just am super happy that I get to do on the side.
Yeah, I think it's very fun for young people to know that these careers evolve and there's different opportunities for sure. Well, it's 4 o'clock, so I'm going to give you just 30 seconds to share that final word of wisdom for any students that might be on here or their school counselors, just about the career development process or figuring this all out. You've given some great wisdom already, but anything you'd like to finish up with?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that, whatever career you go with, uh, you know, make it something that you're interested in, you're passionate about, but just know that that's not going to mean that's always going to be, easy or necessarily fun, but that doesn't mean that it's not worthwhile. either. You know, there's going to be hardships with whatever career that you want to pursue. And the difference in whether you do it or not is not your intelligence or your ability, it's your willingness to learn and grow and lean on those connections that you make, because those connections will both make you stronger in the career that you want to be in and maybe open doors that you never even considered just with what you're focused on right now. So keep your options open, uh keep your eyes open for those different connections you can make outside of your career with people, because you never know where those are going to take you. And just know that even in the times where you feel like you're not an expert in this and you're never going to be, you're not expected to be yet. And this is just a part of the process that all of us have gone through and are continuing to go through. Even the people who look like they know what they're doing, they went through the exact same thing that you do, and they probably still are. So just don't be so hard on yourself when you're looking for your career.
You've been amazing role model today for Career Chats, Jason. Thank you so, so much for making valuable time for us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.